And I will share my screen so that we can start reading today. All right, we are on A Course in Miracles, new chapter, chapter 28, The Undoing of Fear, the Present Memory. The miracle does nothing. All it does is to undo, and thus it cancels out the interference to what has been done. It does not add, but merely takes away. And what it takes away is long since gone. But being kept in memory appears to have immediate effects. This world was over long ago. The thoughts that made it are no longer in the mind that thought of them and loved them for a little while. The miracle but shows the past is gone, and what is truly gone has no effects. Remembering a cause can but produce illusions of its presence, not effects. All the effects of guilt are here no more, for guilt is over. In its passing went its consequences, left without a cause. Why would you cling to it in memory if you did not desire its effects? Remembering is as selective as perception, being its past tense. It is perception of the past as if it were occurring now and still were there to see. Memory, like perception, is a skill made up by you to take the place of what God gave in your creation. And like all these things you made, it can be used to serve another purpose and to be the means for something else. It can be used to heal and not to hurt, if you so wish it be. Nothing employed for healing represents an effort to do anything at all. It is a recognition that you have no needs, which mean that something must be done. It is an unselective memory that is not used to interfere with truth. All things the Holy Spirit can employ for healing have been given him without the content and the purposes for which they have been made. They are but skills without an application. They await their use. They have no dedication and no aim. The Holy Spirit can indeed make use of memory, for God himself is there. Yet this is not a memory of past events, but only of a present state. You are so long accustomed to believe that memory holds only what is past, that it is hard for you to realize it is a skill that can remember now. The limitations on remembering the world imposes on it are as vast as those you let the world impose on you. There is no link of memory to the past. If you would have it there, then there it is. But only your desire made the link, and only you have held it to a part of time where guilt appears to linger still. The Holy Spirit's use of memory is quite apart from time. He does not seek to use it as a means to keep the past, but rather as a way to let it go. Memory holds the message it receives and does what it is given it to do. It does not write the message.
Terry?
Ancient hate and gives you pictures of injustices and hurts that you were saving. This is what you asked its message be, and that it is. Committed to its vaults, the history of all the bodies past is hidden there. All the strange associations made to keep the past alive, the present dead, are stored within it, waiting your command that they be brought to you and lived again, and thus do their effects appear to be increased by time, which took away their cause. Yet time is but another phrase of what does nothing. It works hand in hand with all the other attributes with which you seek to keep concealed the truth about yourself. Time neither takes away nor can restore. And yet you make strange use of it, as if the past had caused the present, which is but a consequence in which no change can be made possible because its cause has gone. Yet change must have a cause that will endure, or else it will not last. No change can be made in the present if its cause is past. Only the past is held in memory as you make use of it, and so it is a way to hold the past against the now. Remember nothing that you taught yourself, for you were badly taught. And who would keep a senseless lesson in his mind when he can learn and can preserve a better one? When ancient memories of hate appear, remember that their cause is gone, and so you cannot understand what they are for. Let not the cause that you would give them now be what it was that made them what they were or seemed to be. Be glad that it is gone, for this is what you would be pardoned from. And see instead the new effects of cause accepted now, with consequences here. They will surprise you with their loveliness. The ancient new ideas they bring will be the happy consequences of a cause so ancient that it far exceeds the span of memory which your perception sees. This is the cause the Holy Spirit has remembered for you when you would forget. It is not past because he let it not be unremembered. It is never changed because there never was a time in which he did not keep it safely in your mind. Its consequences will indeed seem new because you thought that you remembered not their cause. Yet was it never absent from your mind, for it was not your Father's will that he be unremembered by his Son. What you remember never was. It came from causelessness, which you confused with cause. It can deserve but laughter when you learn you have remembered consequences that were causeless and could never be effects. The miracle reminds you of a cause forever present, perfectly untouched by time and interference, never changed from what it is. And you are its effect, as changeless and as perfect as itself. Its memory does not lie in the past, nor awaits the future. It is not revealed in miracles. They but remind you that it has not gone. When you forgive it for your sins, it will no longer be denied. You who have sought to lay a judgment on your own Creator cannot even understand it is not he who laid a judgment on his Son. You would deny him his effects, yet have they never been denied. There was no time in which his Son could be condemned for what was causeless and against his will. What your remembering would witness to is but the fear of God. He has not done the thing you fear, no more have you. And so your innocence has not been lost. You need no healing to be healed. In quietness, see the miracle a lesson in allowing cause to have its own effects and doing nothing that would interfere. The miracle comes quietly into the mind that stops an instant and is still. It reaches gently from that quiet time, and from the mind it healed in quiet then, to other minds to share its quietness. And they will join in doing nothing to prevent its radiant extension back into the mind which caused all minds to be. Born out of sharing, there can be no pause in time to cause the miracle delay in hastening to all unquiet minds and bringing them an instant's stillness when the memory of God returns to them. Their own remembering is quiet now, and what has come to take its place will not be wholly unremembered afterwards. He to whom time is given offers thanks for every quiet instant given him. For in that instant is God's memory allowed to offer all its treasures to the Son of God, for whom they have been kept. How gladly does he offer them unto the one for whom he has been given them. And his Creator shares his thanks, because he would not be deprived of his effects. The instant's silence that his Son accepts gives welcome to eternity and him, and lets them enter where they would abide. For in that instant does the Son of God do nothing that would make himself afraid. How instantly the memory of God arises in the mind that has no fear to keep the memory away. Its own remembering has gone. There is no past to keep its fearful image in the way of glad awakening to present peace. The trumpets of eternity resound throughout the stillness, yet disturb it not. And what is now remembered is not fear, but rather is the cause that fear was made to render unremembered and undone. The stillness speaks in gentle sounds of love. The Son of God remembers from before his own remembering came in between the present and the past to shut them out. Now is the Son of God at last aware of present cause and its benign effects. Now does he understand what he has made is causeless, having no effects at all. He has done nothing. And in seeing this, he understands he never had a need for doing anything and never did. His cause is its effects. There never was a cause beside it that could generate a different past or future. Its effects are changelessly eternal, beyond fear, and past the world of sin entirely. What has been lost to see the causeless not? And where is sacrifice when memory of God has come to take the place of loss? What better way to close the little gap between illusions and reality than to allow the memory of God to flow across it, making it a bridge, an instant will suffice to reach beyond. For God has closed it with himself. His memory has not gone by and left a stranded son forever on a shore where he can glimpse another shore that he can never reach. His Father wills that he be lifted up and gently carried over. He has built the bridge, and it is he who will transport his Son across it. Have no fear that he will fail in what he wills, nor that you be excluded from the will that is for you. That was kind of a lot. Hi, Kelly. I want to welcome you. I think you're still on mute. We just,
Sorry, I'm late.
No, that's fine. No worries. We just read the first part of chapter 28, The Undoing of Fear, the Present Memory. Yeah, so there was a lot in there.
Yeah, there was a lot. Guilt, it's in the past.
Yeah. And how, I was kind of thinking about all the things we talked about. We got on at about 12 o'clock and started just chit-chatting about things. And we were talking about the, different things in politics, and we were talking a little bit about the Super Bowl. And it's funny how, we think of all these things as real and happening. And, what we just read is that it's all part of the causeless memory, and that this was over so long ago, but we just keep bringing it back with our memory and with our determination to find justice in a world of illusions.
So
real games.
I'm having the biggest problem. I mean, I can bless everyone. I can see the holy in everyone except these current politicians. And I really don't want to have that feeling. I don't know how to get over that. Does anybody have any suggestions?
Yeah, we practice that a lot, actually. I think again, it's about really understanding that, okay, if you look at everybody on the screen here, right? We all have different faces. We all have different genders. We all have all of these differences that make us look different, right? We sound different. We look different. We come from different backgrounds. But in reality, it's the one mind of God that we're all connected to that's projecting all of us as being separate, right? In truth, it's the one mind of God that's just projecting all of the differences out. And we see all the differences. And we even look at our hands and say, oh, this is my hand, right? When in reality, this hand is just part of this body that is part of this dream that collectively we're all having. So if you can look at just one other person, like I can look at Ernesto and I could say, I am Ernesto. Ernesto looks different from me, but in truth, the one mind that we share is making all of this up. And it's making up the fact that I look like this and Ernesto looks like that and Carl looks like that and Gail and Maynard and Kelly and Mary and Alicia, and we all look differently, but it's all the one mind that is dreaming this dream, right? And projecting this out as all of the differences. So if we can just take one person at a time and see the Christ in the other person, see the sameness in the other person, see that person as, as if we are asleep and dreaming. Like when I sleep, I have the most incredible dreams. Like they are populated with all kinds of people and all kinds of things and animals and weather and oh my gosh, I mean, I can make it all up in my dream. So if I'm making all of this up in my sleeping dream, isn't it true that we are all being made up by this dream that we're all dreaming, right? So if we could bring it back to that and see the sameness and realize that, yeah, we're acting differently. We're acting in opposition to the way I would act, right? Like I don't agree with this person's policies, but you know what? I don't agree with the people that I'm dreaming about at night either. When I'm asleep and dreaming, I don't agree with what they're doing. Like there's times I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was a terrible dream. But I made it up. I made up that terrible dream where I was the victim or where this person was doing these horrible things. I made it up in my mind, right? So if we can realize that the one mind of God is the truth of where we all are, and the fact that we see these people doing these terrible things, it's all part of the dream. The only way to undo that is to go back to what we just read just now, go back to realizing that it's all part of the dream and we just need to not buy into it. We need to look at the person, go beyond it, and see the Christ in the person. We need to see the love, the one mind of love in that person, especially if we disagree with what they're doing, right? Because
So hard.
it's so hard, right?
Yeah.
But that's the work, right? That's the work of it.
Let me affirm what you're saying. I've been working on this for two or 3 weeks, and took one person and just kept trying to see that person that we're alike, we're the same, and it began to tame the person, is the word I would use, and I began to kind of laugh at the person and at myself. It was a matter of just staying with it every day for a little bit until now. I see that person that I don't agree with at all. I don't agree with it all, but I see that person as my brother, and I love that brother. It's amazing what changes when you ask the Holy Spirit to help you see that person, who they are, and how they are alike to you, and how they are the same as you.
Yeah.
That's really great. That's really great. I do it by looking at things as a whole, and in a whole system, there's every aspect of diversity, and that's my opinion as to why we are here experiencing duality, if you will, and you can experience universality which is just greater than duality. Duality is only seeing the opposing issues. When you see things as whole, you're seeing the entire diversity, the entire dynamic of something. And so I can look at any point on that spectrum and say, yeah, I don't necessarily resonate with that, but I can acknowledge that it has just as much validity in terms of expressing itself as I do, because it's part of the whole system. So that I can let it be as it is, and perhaps it will change and evolve. In fact, it will, based on the amount of love or not that's sent out to it and touches it as it ripples out. So my particular way that I approach it is to send that kind of love and acceptance. We all have different views, but in the same, if we're just talking about politics, for instance, the commonality is we may love our country, maybe. We have a very different way of showing that, of expressing it. That's the diversity again. And so I can find the commonality with my brother in that we're trying our best, and then just accept and allow that their way of doing their best is not exactly the same way that I am, because we've had different personalities, different experiences. So that's my take on it, Terry.
And I bring it down to a personal level. For me, I know what's happening out there politically wise. It's, awful. I mean, all the things that are going down, I get it. But for example, I have my next door neighbor is in a whole different, he's a Trumper. Let's put it that way. And in the past, I've always tried to avoid anything that we're going to argue about.
Mhm.
And I'll say my piece, I let him say his, but I don't give it any feed. I don't feed that dragon, let's say, for instance, because I want to be expressing love. And I do. I mean, he's an older gentleman. Actually, I'm older than him, but he's aged through the years for whatever reason, right? His life has not been exactly all that colorful, but he's into a whole different mindset. And for me, what I do is concentrate on the love. And right now he's by himself. His son is away, and I'm actually looking out for him. I am expressing my love that way to him. And in that expression of love and taking care of him and doing whatever I can to help him, because he obviously needs a lot of help. His son was trying to get something. He's away. He's trying to get a code. And he comes to me and he goes, can you talk to him? And so and that makes me feel so good to be able to just help that way. And for me, that I think projects itself out to what's happening out there, or what seemingly is out there, but it's really all in here together. We're all in this together, regardless. Okay. So that if I can express my love and all of that in this small sector here, in this little insignificant thing that nobody knows about, or nobody's taking notice, nothing is being written about it, there is no publicity on it, but I know that inside of me, what I'm doing, it's like throwing a little pebble in the water. It's branching out, it's going out, and just that vibe itself, I rely on as an expression of what I'm doing. That I think I'm doing. That's my way of correcting things, I guess, because all we could do is correct. You're talking about dreams. In dreams we try to correct the things that out here we cannot control. Sometimes we try to control it in the dream. I mean, and it's telling. Our dreams tell us that. If you look deep enough, in your dreams, you'll see that. Wow, why am I trying to correct that thing still? I thought that was over a long time ago.
I'd like to share one more thing too, if that's okay. Speaking of correcting things in dreams, because I've seen a lot of studies and research, and they call dreaming, like when we're actually sleeping and dreaming, like the fifth dimension, right? Where when something happens in the fifth dimension, then it happens within this dimension, right? And that's happened to me several times. But this one particular instant, I was having a dream and I was at this interrogation table. And I know I've shared this with some of you. And there was a woman across from the table from me, and we were facing each other, and she was angry and she had red hair and she was yelling at me in German, I think. I don't speak German. But I was like picking up on the vernaculars of what she was saying. And I was thinking, I think she's German and she's yelling at me and she's really angry. And I looked at her in my dream and I said, you know, you and I, we're one, just like how I'm talking to you guys. Like, yeah, we're all one. Okay. And I'm dreaming and I'm like, you and I are one. And then all of a sudden I looked at her and I was like, actually, I'm dreaming right now. So I'm making you up. So we really are one because you're coming from my head right now. And all of a sudden, with that realization, she smiled and then she turned into all this sparkly fairy dust. And I remember thinking, wow, I just had like a perfect experience of true at one mint with someone who looked different from me, spoke a different language, but I clearly was making her up in my mind because I was asleep and dreaming. But at that moment, I knew I was asleep and dreaming, and I knew I was making her up, and I knew we were having an argument, and I knew it was all in my head, that it wasn't real, So I think that makes it easier when I have those dreams to look at all of you and really say, yeah, and I'm making you up, and I'm making you up, and I'm making you up, because in truth, we are the one mind of God, right? When we go back to the truth of who we all are, we are all the one mind of God, and we are all making this up.
Right. And everything is part of the whole. Everything comes together. Right. Whether, I was having this conversation with somebody this morning, because something about, you can't believe in good if you don't believe in bad, and you can't believe in God if there's no devil. And I was like, well, that's how we interpret life. That's an interpretation of life. But is that really true? Because everything is part of the whole. Everything. I mean, God wouldn't have made, if we're making all this up and all this is for the experience, then it's all part of it. Everything is part of it. Everything, regardless of what's going down.
Two of my three sons are Trumpers, and which gives me no amount of frustration, but I'm feeling like, okay, so there's a reason for this that I need to get over. The closest I can seem to come is to remember when they were sweet little babies and innocent, and I can get there that way. And frankly, if I think the same thing about Trump and how he was a baby and he didn't get his needs met, and this is how he's getting them met, then I can kind of forgive, if that's the right word. But I still I'm in Portugal, and so it takes a real effort to watch the news in the US, but I'm so addicted to it. I still do it. And then I get angry and I'm going, why am I doing this? Because I feel like I have to know what's going on, but it's bad for me and I'm stuck.
Well,
Yeah.
well, I think there is, I understand what you're saying. So for me, I only watch some of the news because I want to be informed.
Yeah.
But I shut everything off. I read here and there. I read the headlines, and then I get to the point, like you said, that it's starting to disturb me. I leave it alone. I'll wait.
Yeah.
I'll get away from it for a while because you have to. If it's not serving you,
Yeah.
Sometimes with my neighbor, when in the years past, that's what would happen. He would say some outrageous things, and I would just like start to engage with him, and I realized, no, this is not productive. This is my neighbor. I'm going to stop this, and I would just stop that. And now we're like, buddies. We're like, I just saw him this morning, and he's like, I was helping him with some snow, moving it, and all kinds of things. And he was just delightful. And that's it. That for me is it. If you can make a change like that on a small level here, that's what transfers for me out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's where change occurs, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep. One brother at a time.
Right.
Yep.
When I'm watching the news, if I begin to get involved in it, I'm making it real. If
Yeah.
if I can step back and see myself and also what I'm watching as kind of kids playing on the playground,
Yeah.
and it then loses so much of its power,
Mhm.
and it becomes something where I can laugh. And I keep remembering that the problem is the Son of God forgot to laugh.
Mhm.
And if we can learn to laugh and see things as not real, but as being played out there, kind of in a little drama, and we can laugh at ourselves and at it, then for me it becomes more manageable.
Yeah, and what we just read was this happened long ago.
Right.
So all of this is over. We just keep it alive with our memory.
Thank you all. This was very, very helpful.
All right, let's keep going because I think we're going to have some more tools in the next section. Reversing effect and cause. Without a cause, there can be no effects. And yet, without effects, there is no cause. A cause is made by its effects. The Father is a father by his Son. Effects do not create their cause, but they establish its causation. Thus, the Son gives fatherhood to his Creator and receives the gift that he has given him. It is because he is God's Son that he must also be a father who creates as God created him. The circle of creation has no end. Its starting and its ending are the same. But in itself, it holds the universe of all creation, without beginning and without an end.
Mhm.
Fatherhood is creation. Love must be extended. Purity is not confined. It is the nature of the innocent to be forever uncontained, without a barrier or limitation. Thus is purity not of the body, nor can it be found where limitation is. The body can be healed by its effects, which are as limitless as is itself. Yet must all healing come about because the mind is recognized as not within the body, and its innocence is quite apart from it, and where all healing is. Where, then, is healing? Only where its cause is given its effects. For sickness is a meaningless attempt to give effects to causelessness and make it be a cause. Always in sickness does the Son of God attempt to make himself his cause and not allow himself to be his Father's Son. For this impossible desire, he does not believe that he is love's effects and must be cause because of what he is. The cause of healing is the only cause of everything. It has but one effect. And in that recognition, causelessness is given no effects and none is seen. A mind within a body and a world of other bodies, each with separate minds, are your creations. You, the other mind, creating with effects unlike yourself. And as their father, you must be like them. Nothing at all has happened, but that you have put yourself to sleep and dreamed a dream in which you were an alien to yourself, and but a part of someone else's dream. The miracle does not awaken you, but merely shows you who the dreamer is. It teaches you there is a choice of dreams while you are still asleep, depending on the purpose of your dreaming. Do you wish for dreams of healing or for dreams of death? A dream is like a memory, and that it pictures what you wanted shown to you. An empty storehouse with an open door holds all your shreds of memories and dreams. Yet if you are the dreamer, you perceive this much at least, that you have caused the dream and can accept another dream as well. But for this change in content of the dream, it must be realized that it is you who dreamed the dreaming that you do not like. It is but an effect that you have caused, and you would not be cause of this effect. In dreams of murder and attack, are you the victim in a dying body slain? But in forgiving dreams, is no one asked to be the victim and the sufferer? These are the happy dreams, the miracle exchanges for your own. It does not ask you to make another, only that you see you made the one you would exchange for this. This world is causeless, as is every dream that anyone has dreamed within the world. No plans are possible, and no design exists that could be found and understood. What else could be expected from a thing that has no cause? Yet, if it has no cause, it has no purpose. You may cause a dream, but never will you give it real effects, for that would change its cause, and it is this you cannot do. The dreamer of a dream is not awake, but does not know he sleeps. He sees illusions of himself as sick or well, depressed or happy, but without a stable cause with guaranteed effects. The miracle establishes you dream a dream and that its content is not true. This is a crucial step in dealing with illusions. No one is afraid of them when he perceives he made them up. The fear was held in place because he did not see that he was the author of the dream and not a figure in the dream. He gives himself the consequences that he dreams he gave his brother. And it is but this the dream has put together and has offered him to show him that his wishes have been done. Thus does he fear his own attack, but sees it at another's hands. As victim, he's suffering from its effects, but not their cause. He authored not his own attack, and he is innocent of what he caused. The miracle does nothing but to show him that he has done nothing. What he fears is cause without the consequences that would make it cause. And so it never was. The separation started with the dream. The father was deprived of his effects and powerless to keep them, since he was no longer their creator. In the dream, the dreamer made himself. But what he made has turned against him, taking on the role of its creator, as the dreamer had. And as he hated his creator, so the figures in the dream have hated him. His body is their slave, which they abuse because the motives he has given it have they adopted as their own, and hate it for the vengeance it would offer them. It is their vengeance on the body which appears to prove the dreamer could not be the maker of the dream. Effect and cause are first split off and then reversed, so that effect becomes a cause. The cause, effect. This is the separation's final step, with which salvation, which proceeds to go the other way, begins. This final step is an effect of what has gone before, appearing as a cause. The miracle is the first step in giving back to cause the function of causation, not effect. For this confusion has produced the dream, and while it lasts, will awakening be feared, nor will the call to awakening be heard, because it seems to be the call to fear. Like every lesson that the Holy Spirit requests you learn, the miracle is clear. It demonstrates what He would have you learn, and shows you its effects are what you want. In his forgiving dreams are the effects of yours undone, and hated enemies perceived as friends with merciful intent. Their enmity is seen as causeless now, because they did not make it. And you can accept the role of maker of their hate, because you see that it has no effects. Now are you freed from this much of the dream? The world is neutral, and the bodies that still seem to move about as separate things need not be feared. And so they are not sick. The miracle returns the cause of fear to you who made it. But it also shows that having no effects, it is not cause, because the function of causation is to have effects. And where effects are gone, there is no cause. Thus is the body healed by miracles, because they show the mind made sickness and employed the body to be victim or effect of what it made. Yet half the lesson will not teach the whole. The miracle is useless if you learn but that the body can be healed, for this is not the lesson it was sent to teach. The lesson is the mind was sick, that thought the body could be sick, projecting out its guilt, caused nothing and had no effects. This world is full of miracles. They stand in shining silence next to every dream of pain and suffering, of sin and guilt. They are the dream's alternative, the choice to be the dreamer, rather than deny the active role in making up the dream. They are the glad effects of taking back the consequence of sickness to its cause. The body is released because the mind acknowledges, this is not done to me, but I am doing this. And thus the mind is free to make another choice instead. Beginning here, salvation will proceed to change the course of every step in the descent to separation, until all the steps have been retraced, the ladder gone, and all the dreaming of the world undone.
Oh.
So there we go, Gail. That's the answer right there. It's just a dream. We made it all up.
Nightmare.
A nightmare, yeah. More like a nightmare. You're right. That moment we forgot to laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think recognizing that is that's why we read this book, I guess, to try and to see the recognition of that.
Yeah. Yep. That's it right there. The recognition and the remembering that we made it up.
I mean, it's pretty very, very much so. We have the experiences that are supposed to happen to us, especially with what's happening around us in our politics and within families themselves. You know, I saw this piece on the news about these neighbors that get along fine. They play cards together, they do all kinds of things together, but when it comes to politics, they're on the opposite ends. It was a very interesting little segment that they did, I guess, just before the elections on politics in a small town somewhere in the Midwest. I think it was. No, it might have been in New Jersey. And they interviewed both families, and it's just amazing, just an amazing thing that what's going on. And I think that that's an awakening, I think, for everybody that's going on. Because sometimes we need to go from that chaos to where things now kind of become more comprehensive. Because it's all part of it. It's all part of it. You wouldn't have the chaos without the comprehension.
And when you say it's an awakening for every body, I think it's a remembering too, but that there is no other body but one. You know, it's awakening for everybody, and we think, oh my gosh, how is everybody going to be awakened? That's impossible. There's billions of people, right? But it only takes one. Just one, because it's still the one mind making
Well,
it all up.
and I mean, I personally, I think that because I just said that, right? And sometimes I read a bunch of stuff that talks about the dream and awaking from it, and I still like don't understand it completely. You know, it's like, huh, what was that again about waking up? You know, remembering, waking up. The knowledge is already in us. We already have the knowing. It's just a matter of accessing it or bringing it forth.
Yeah.
What is that? You know, what is that really? So there's two words, two phrases. You know, I don't know, and they don't know.
But there is one who knows.
Yeah.
There is one who knows, and we always forget to ask. We always forget to ask the one who knows. Well, shall we keep going, the agreement to join, or does anybody else want to share something that came up for them during that? All right, let's get into the agreement to join. What waits in perfect certainty beyond salvation is not our concern. For you have barely started to allow your first uncertain steps to be directed. Up the ladder, separation led you down. The miracle alone is your concern at present. Here is where we must begin. And having started, will the way be made serene and simple in the rising up to waking and the ending of the dream. When you accept a miracle, you do not add your dream of fear to one that is already being dreamed. Without support, the dream will fade away without effects. For it is your support that strengthens it. No mind is sick until another mind agrees that they are separate. And thus it is their joint decision to be sick. If you withhold agreement and accept the part you play in making sickness real, the other mind cannot project its guilt without your aid in letting it perceive itself as separate and apart from you. Thus is the body not perceived as sick by both your minds from separate points of view. Uniting with a brother's mind prevents the cause of sickness and perceived effects. Healing is the effect of minds that join, as sickness comes from minds that separate. The miracle does nothing just because the minds are joined and cannot separate. Yet in the dreaming has this been reversed, and separate minds are seen as bodies, which are separated and which cannot join. Do not allow your brother to be sick, for if he is, have you abandoned him to his own dream by sharing it with him? He has not seen the cause of sickness where it is, and you have overlooked the gap between you, where the sickness has been bred. Thus are you joined in sickness, to preserve the little gap, unhealed, where sickness is kept carefully protected, cherished, and upheld by firm belief, lest God should come to bridge the little gap that leads to him. Fight not his coming with illusions, for it is his coming that you want above all things that seems to glisten in the dream. The end of dreaming is the end of fear, and love was never in the world of dreams. The gap is little, yet it holds the seeds of pestilence and every form of ill, because it is a wish to keep apart and not to join. And thus it seems to give a cause to sickness, which is not its cause. The purpose of the gap is all the cause that sickness has, for it was made to keep you separated in a body which you see as if it were the cause of pain. The cause of pain is separation, not the body, which is only its effect. Yet separation is but empty space, enclosing nothing, doing nothing, and as unsubstantial as the empty place between the ripples that a ship has made in passing by, and covered just as fast as water rushes in to close the gap, and as the waves enjoining cover it. Where is the gap between the waves when they have joined and covered up the space which seemed to keep them separate for a little while? Where are the grounds for sickness when the minds have joined to close the little gap between them, where the seeds of sickness seemed to grow? God builds the bridge, but only in the space left clean and vacant by the miracle. The seeds of sickness and the shame of guilt he cannot bridge, for he cannot destroy the alien will that he created not. Let its effects be gone, and clutch them not with eager hands to keep them for yourself. The miracle will brush them all aside, and thus make room for him who wills to come and bridge his son's returning to himself. Count then the silver miracles and golden dreams of happiness as all the treasures you would keep within the storehouse of the world. The door is open, not to thieves, but to your starving brothers, who mistook for gold the shining of a pebble, and who stored a heap of snow that shone like silver. They have nothing left behind the open door. What is the world except a little gap, perceived to tear eternity apart and break it into days and months and years? And what are you who live within the world, except a picture of the Son of God in broken pieces, each concealed within a separate and uncertain bit of clay? Be not afraid, my child, but let your world be gently lit by miracles. And where the little gap was seen to stand between you and your brother, join him there. And so sickness will now be seen without a cause. The dream of healing and forgiveness lies and gently shows you that you never sinned. The miracle would leave no proof of guilt to bring you witness to what never was. And in your storehouse, it will make a place of welcome for your Father and yourself. The door is open, that all those may come who would no longer starve and would enjoy the feast of plenty set before them there. And they will meet with your invited guests the miracle has asked to come to you. This is a feast unlike indeed to those the dreaming of the world has shown. For here the more that anyone receives, the more is left for all the rest to share. The guests have brought unlimited supply with them, and no one is deprived or can deprive. Here is a feast the Father lays before his Son and shares it equally with him. And in their sharing, there can be no gap in which abundance falters and grows thin. Here can the lean years enter not, for time waits not upon this feast, which has no end. For love has set its table in the space that seemed to keep your guests apart from you. Well, that was a beautiful visual. A big feast. Any thoughts? Any questions?
A lot of dreaming going on.
It sure looks like it. Time to wake up, I think. Time to wake up and see your brother as yourself.
Mhm.
And herein lies the key to awakening from the dream.
Yep.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Bridging the gap.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's your homework for the next week.
That's the homework, right?
That's it.
I think that happens. I mean, naturally, you know, the guy next door lost his wife. She'd been in the nursing home with dementia, and he was there. I mean, in the morning, in the evening, every day for months. I mean, I saw a whole different person. You know, and I talked to some friends about this. Oh, you know, that'll stop. You know, he will stop going over there. No, he did not. He was there every day. I mean, it was whole. I saw a whole different person.
Started seeing yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, good one.
Right. That's right. I definitely mirroring a part of me. I was like, wow. I was so like taken because then I hear from other people a different story. I know that's going to end because that's the way they would be.
Maybe.
Maybe. Right. Exactly. You know, you never know until you're there. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because at the bottom of everything, we're all one anyway. So it's those types of natures come out when you least expect it.
Yeah. No, to me, it was
There
very
is no
revealing.
death.
Very revealing to me. I mean, you know, it was like I had so much more empathy or whatever the word you want to say is for him, you know?
Mhm.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
During his last administration, I came to terms with Trump, and every time I see him now, I see him as somebody that's going to find his way out, because we all will eventually. He's my brother, just like everybody else is. Which
Yeah.
is hard at times.
And
But
it's even it, and then when you think about it in terms of like I see that in within my own family sometimes, right? The differences. And you think, yeah, we're one, even though we might appear to be separate and different and have different values and different thoughts. You try to see the oneness and embrace that, the joining. That's what we're going to read about next week, the greater joining. Yep.
Okay.
All right, guys. Anybody else have a burning desire to share before we close today?
This has been a good session, really good.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, Maynard. Yeah.
All right.
We're getting close to the end. Woohoo!
next.
Which is just the beginning. All right, guys. Thank you all for joining. Always
All
love
right.
the conversation and the questions because it always leads to more conversation. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.